This right here is the face of a man trying to sell a tragedy he created. Kody Brown, suddenly overcome with grief for the family he spent years dismantling, claims he just can't stay in his home anymore, too many bad memories, too much pain. The problem? No one's buying it. Not the fans, not the kids, not even TLC's editing room. Because let's be honest, this isn't about grief, it's about image control. Kody and Robyn are once again putting on the performance of a lifetime, rewriting the script so that Kody looks like the broken-hearted dad instead of the man who burned every bridge he had. It's a rerun of the same old routine. The tears, the martyrdom, the fresh start talk, all while the real story, the one his kids are living, tells a very different truth. And this time, viewers aren't falling for it. They're calling it exactly what it is. Another desperate attempt by Kody and Robyn to spin their chaos into sympathy. But the camera doesn't lie, and the audience has finally stopped forgiving. But on the off chance you actually feel even a flicker of sympathy for these two don't, I'm here to clear that right up. Kody and Robyn Brown are not mourning the loss of a family. They're not processing heartbreak or devastation. They're grief grifters. Every tear, every trembling word, every "we just need a new beginning" moment, it's a hustle, a production. They've turned pain into performance and heartbreak into brand management. Kody and Robyn have mastered the art of weaponizing emotion using tragedy as PR to buy back the sympathy they lost when the whole world saw who they really were. They're not grieving. They're grifting, milking the remnants of their broken family for one last shot at looking like the victims in a story they wrote themselves. These two are not heartbroken, they're calculating. Kody and Robyn Brown are preying on sympathy, milking every ounce of emotion they can from viewers, and maybe even from Kody's extended family, all while cloaking themselves in tragedy. By invoking Garrison's passing, they're shielding themselves from criticism, using grief as a cover story to justify their next big lifestyle move. This isn't mourning, it's manipulation. A full-blown PR strategy dressed up as heartbreak. And I'm calling it exactly what it is. A performance designed to soften the audience while they quietly level up behind the scenes. The Brown family's pain has become Kody and Robyn's newest currency, and they're spending it shamelessly. I do feel sympathy for Kody Brown, but only in the way any human being would feel sympathy for a parent who has lost a child. That kind of pain is unimaginable, and no one deserves it. But let's make one thing clear, sympathy for grief is not the same as excusing manipulation. There's a difference between genuine mourning and weaponizing tragedy to control a narrative. And what Kody and Robyn are doing right now, it's starting to look a lot like the latter. That's just a natural human reaction, right? When someone loses a child, no matter who they are, your heart goes out to them. I genuinely felt that for Kody. For about a year after Garrison's passing, I held back my judgment. I didn't want to pile on. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, this loss would finally crack through that thick wall of pride and denial he's been hiding behind for years. Even when reports started surfacing about tension at one of the memorials, whispers that something went down so bad that even Mykelti cut ties, I still gave Kody the benefit of the doubt. Because grief can do strange things to people. It can destroy you or rebuild you. It can make you softer, more self-aware, more grateful. And deep down, I hoped that Garrison's passing would finally shock Kody's system, that it would force him to stop and really see the family he spent years alienating, the kids who begged for connection, the wives who waited for effort that never came. I hoped he would step back and realize that life is painfully short, that relationships aren't guaranteed, and that no amount of control or ego can protect you from regret. I wanted to believe he'd finally look at his children, all of them, and think, this is what really matters. But instead, what we saw was the opposite. The crocodile tears, the pity tour, the deflection, it stopped looking like grief and started looking like a performance. Like he and Robyn found a new way to turn tragedy into a storyline, one that shields them from accountability and paints them as victims again. And that's when it hit me, this wasn't healing. This was grief as a grift. I had really hoped, honestly, I wanted to believe that this tragedy would wake Kody up. That losing Garrison would finally push him to do the real work, the kind of hard, uncomfortable, soul-level work it takes to rebuild the bridges he burned. I thought maybe, for once, he'd stop performing for cameras and start showing up, calling his kids, apologizing, making the effort to earn back their trust, their respect, maybe even their love. But that never happened. Not even close. In fact, as time went on, it became painfully clear, not from rumors, but from his own family members, that things didn't get better after Garrison's passing, they got worse. The distance grew deeper. The resentment sharper. And Kody? He seemed more focused on protecting his and Robyn's image than repairing any real relationship. That's when I stopped biting my tongue. Because you can't keep pretending that what we're seeing is grief or healing when it's really just damage control wrapped in self-pity. I started sharing my unfiltered thoughts not out of hate, but because someone has to call out the manipulation, the emotional spin, the way Kody and Robyn keep using pain as a PR strategy. They didn't grow from the loss, they capitalized on it. And that's where the sympathy ends and the truth begins. What happened with the portrayal of Garrison's death on the show is that Kody used this as yet another opportunity to make himself the center of attention. Every single moment, it was all about Kody, the grief, the pain, the camera angles, all focused on him. All eyes on Kody while he manually digs a grave no one asked him to dig, as if the act itself somehow proved his fatherly devotion. I was actually shocked he had the decency and social awareness enough to do that on a different day than the actual service. But even then, when the family gathered to mourn, Kody couldn't help himself. At the service, he still had to jump into the grave, still had to make sure the cameras caught him in his moment of grief. It was performative, it was uncomfortable. And it perfectly summed up how Kody turns even the deepest tragedies into another scene in his never-ending show. Kody always has to make a show out of everything, every emotion, every tragedy, every so-called family moment. And this time was no different. What he did was the exact opposite of what Garrison's siblings wanted for his memorial. They wanted peace, privacy, and a chance to grieve without cameras, without dramatics. But Kody, as always, turned it into a production. He can't seem to process a single thing without performing it. And then, when it comes to money and property, the Coyote Pass land, Robyn's massive house, it's the same story. All of it should have been sold and split evenly among the wives. That would have been fair, transparent, respectful. Kody should have been included only within Robyn's share because, let's be honest, at this point, they're one financial entity. But fairness has never been Kody's strong suit, and equality has never been Robyn's priority. Christine should have absolutely had a cut of it. Every single wife contributed to that so-called family pot. It wasn't just Kody and Robyn funding their dream life, it was a collective effort. The money from the sales of the Vegas homes, the shared income, the sacrifices, all of that went into Robyn's McMansion one. Let's not forget that. And the irony? When the topic came up again in season 19, Robyn herself admitted that the house was supposed to be for the family. That was the deal. That was the promise. But, as history shows, when it came time to actually share that family home, it magically turned into Robyn's house. Her name, her rules, her comfort, while everyone else was left starting over. And here's the kicker. The whole point of that house was supposed to be family property, an asset for the family. That was the pitch. Sell the Vegas homes, pool the proceeds, buy one big place that everybody could use. On camera, the story was always, this is for us. But the reality became something very different. Instead of a shared legacy, that home ended up privatized, a family asset that somehow turned into my home. And you can hear the bitterness in that shift. If the promise had actually been honored, Christine and the other wives would have been entitled to a share because everyone contributed to that pot. That was the deal. Now, imagine if money really did grow on trees. Imagine the nerve it takes to privately claim what was sold as a family investment. The speaker here admits it plainly. She's petty enough that if she had unlimited resources and were married to Janelle or Christine, she'd tie those two up in litigation for decades. That line isn't just shade, it's a window into how raw the financial and emotional wounds are. This wasn't just a housing decision. It was a broken promise, a shift from collective ownership to private comfort, and a spark that lit years of resentment. Even if it would be a losing battle, I would drag these two to the poorhouse in legal fees. That sentence says everything you need to know about how raw and personal this fight is. It's not just money, it's principle. If the house was sold and marketed as a family asset, then the OG3 absolutely deserve a fair cut. Period. Robyn literally claimed on camera that the home was meant to be for the family. That admission isn't fluff. It's a contractual promise in the court of public opinion, and it carries weight. You can't publicly pitch a property as a shared legacy and then privatize the payout when it suits you. That's not just shady, it's theft by narrative. Think about what that does to trust. When everyone puts their money and labor into a joint plan, only to have one party treat the result as personal property, the betrayal cuts deep. This is where the resentment starts, where relationships calcify into lawsuits, and where family turns into ledger entries. That's why the legal threat, even if symbolic, lands so hard, it signals to the world you can't lie about collective sacrifice and expect silence. So yeah, drag them through every paper, every deposition, every invoice if you have to. Because when promises are broken under the bright lights of a reality show, the damage isn't just financial, it's emotional, reputational, and generational. And the OG3 aren't just fighting for money, they're fighting for the record to be set straight. ChatGPT said, Kody and Robyn are really playing up the grief angle so that no one else dares to question them or come looking for what's rightfully theirs. It's a manipulative move using tragedy as a shield. I mean, seriously, who's going to confront a grieving father with legal papers or ask about money when he's putting on this public display of sorrow? That's the point. They're painting this picture that everything, the family drama, the heartbreak, the legal tension with Meri and Janelle has forced them to sell their dream home. But let's be real, this isn't a reluctant sale. This is a strategic one. The timing, the narrative, the crocodile tears, it's all meant to make them look like victims of circumstance instead of the architects of their own downfall. Kody and Robyn aren't being crushed by grief. They're cashing in on it. Robyn cannot be playing dollies in her McMansion and actually watch other people, meaning the rest of the family, start developing on Coyote Pass. Are we really asking her to do that? What are we, cruel? The idea of Robyn watching anyone else build a life without her controlling the narrative is unthinkable. But then, how do Kody and Robyn explain this conversation Kody had with Mykelti when he met her newborn twins? The timing here is key. This was before the official split with Meri, before Garrison's passing, and somewhere in the middle of the ongoing tension with Janelle. So technically, this was during the period when Kody was still pretending to be the family man, the dad trying to hold it all together. But what we really saw in that conversation wasn't a man desperate to fix his family, it was a man already rewriting the story, already setting the stage for his next act with Robyn. Kody is already laying the groundwork for the next big move. Another house, another fresh start, another excuse wrapped in sentiment. He's spinning the story that this new house will be for everyone, a gathering place for the whole family, a symbol of healing and togetherness. Sound familiar? Because that's exactly what they said about Robyn's McMansion one. Remember that? Robyn needed the super-sized home because, according to her, they needed a place big enough to host the entire family. Except, in reality, the OG family rarely, if ever, set foot in that house. It wasn't a family home. It was Robyn's fortress, her kingdom. Kody might call it a home for everyone, but history has shown it always ends up being a home for two Kody and Robyn and a locked door for everyone else. Janelle's kids have said it time and time again. They never felt welcome in Robyn's house. That so-called family home was never built for them. It was built for appearances, for control, and for Robyn's version of unity that somehow always leaves everyone else outside. Now, Kody and Robyn are banking on viewers having short memories. They're rewriting the narrative again, pretending this move is some emotional reset, a heartbreaking but necessary fresh start. But let's be honest, this isn't about healing. It's about optics. They want sympathy, not accountability. And this whole we just need to move on from the sadness act, it's just another chapter in the same manipulative playbook they've been using for years. And here's where it all blows up. Mykelti just confirmed on her Patreon watch-along that Christine and Meri didn't even know Kody and Robyn were selling their house until social media told them. Let that sink in. The entire family found out the same way we did through the internet. It gets worse. Mykelti didn't even realize it herself until her own live chat told her the McMansion was up for sale. That's how disconnected things have gotten. No phone call, no family heads up, just a Zillow listing floating around while Kody and Robyn keep pushing this "we're grieving, we need a new start" storyline. If that doesn't scream manipulation and secrecy, I don't know what does. If you're really moving for the kids, if this is truly a fresh start and a place built for family reunions, you tell your kids. You don't roll out a listing on social media and let everyone discover it at the same time. You don't wait for strangers in a live chat to break the news. That's not oversight, that's secrecy. So it's no surprise nobody believes Kody and Robyn's pitch about building a utopia for the kids. The kids don't even know the address they're allegedly supposed to come visit. The optics are everything here. They bought an almost 8,000 square foot mansion for 2 adults, 2 minor children, and what looks to outsiders like 2 or 3 unwilling adult house guests. That image says it all. It's not a family refuge, it's a fortress. It's a status symbol dressed up as healing. Now think for a second. Who benefits from that setup? Who gets the space, the control, the narrative? Not the kids, not the wives who helped fund it. The answers aren't complicated, and that's exactly why the skepticism is real and the backlash is only getting louder. This is actually disgusting, and Kody and Robyn should be ashamed. We've seen Ari expose what's whispered behind closed doors before, and what she's repeating isn't coming from nowhere. Kody admitted in couch interviews that Ariella told him she doesn't like certain OG family members. Think about that for a second. A child that age is absorbing tone, fragments, and innuendo, and then repeating it back as if it were fact. Kids form opinions based on what the adults around them normalize. So when Ariella publicly demands that Christine just go on dates with her dad in that awkward goodbye scene, what are we watching? It's not a spontaneous childish outburst. It's the echo of conversations and attitudes seeded by the adults in the house. It's a child parroting a storyline that blames Christine for a marriage's collapse, a narrative pushed by the very people who benefit from keeping the spotlight off their own choices. That's the real damage here. It's not just that Kody and Robyn are rewriting history for viewers, they're teaching their kids to rewrite it too. They're passing down an us versus them script that trains the next generation to mistrust, to scapegoat, and to weaponize family against family. And the worst part? The kids, being kids, don't have the tools to parse manipulation from truth. They only know what they hear and see. So no, this isn't a small production misstep. It's a pattern with consequences. When adults manufacture narratives and children repeat them back on camera, the line between performance and reality disappears. That's how families break for good. Watching Ariella complain that the old house didn't have enough space for a girl looks innocent on the surface, a kid wanting more room to play and hide. But in the context of this family, it reads like an echo chamber. Ariella isn't inventing grievances, she's parroting language she's been hearing inside that house for years. When small children repeat adult talking points, it's not proof of sincerity, it's proof of influence. Let's be blunt, this is a family of 4 plus 2 minor children and maybe 2 or 3 adult house guests. The optics don't add up. The problem wasn't square footage. The problem was a closed-door culture where certain people were made to feel unwelcome. Yet the camera frames the complaint as a logistical issue, not enough space, instead of what it actually is, emotional exclusion dressed up as a spatial complaint. Kids don't form political positions, they absorb cues. They mimic tone, repeat narratives, and normalize what adults around them normalize. So when Ariella demands dates with Christine or lectures a grown woman about responsibility, she's not operating from independent moral authority, she's reciting the storyboard fed to her. That's how narratives get reproduced, and how bias becomes family doctrine. That's the dangerous part. Once a house becomes a classroom for selective truth-telling, the next generation learns to weaponize loyalty. They learn to equate affection with allegiance, and to see anyone outside the preferred circle as the problem. And all of this gets broadcast back to viewers as if it's spontaneous child behavior rather than coached messaging. So no, Ariella's space complaint isn't an innocent kid moment. It's a symptom of a much deeper issue, a manufactured family narrative taught to children, staged for cameras, and presented as organic. And that's why this whole scene feels wrong on a dozen levels. I think the McMansion one was already somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 square feet. That's not just big, that's massive. That's already twice the size of the house I currently live in, and I promise you, there's plenty of space in mine. You can't sell me on the idea that 4 people were somehow cramped in that house. What they really mean is it wasn't grand enough for the image they're trying to maintain. They don't need more room, they need more validation. They lit up the second someone said cash offer. You could see it the language they kept using in the episode. Depressed, grief, needing a fresh start. But their faces told a different story. Those words were supposed to sell sorrow. Instead, their expressions sold one thing: excitement at the idea of spending. Call it what it is, a con. When the conversation turns to house listings and quick money, they're suddenly animated, pleased, energized. The theatrics about loss and healing evaporate the moment a financial opportunity appears. That contrast is brutal to watch grief as packaging, luxury as the reward. That's the problem. Real mourning doesn't light someone up at the thought of a cash offer. Real grieving doesn't pivot to real estate smiling like it's a shopping spree. What we're watching is a performance calibrated to protect an image and maximize advantage. Frame the narrative as tragedy, then monetize sympathy when the timing works in their favor. So no, you can use words like fresh start all you want, but the camera catches the rest, the way they perk up at spending, the way their body language betrays their script, and viewers notice. That's why the backlash is loud and growing. People aren't fooled by tears when a quick sale gets you a smile. Tell me what you think in the comments. If you like this breakdown, hit like and subscribe to the channel for more reality TV analysis and honest takes. They absolutely lit up the moment they heard cash offer. All episode long, they threw out words like depressed, grief, fresh start trying to sell sadness. But their faces told the real story, excitement. This wasn't about heartbreak or healing. This was about money. Every time there's a chance to spend or upgrade, their mood shifts instantly. That's not grief, that's greed. The emotional manipulation is almost cinematic at this point. They're monetizing sympathy, disguising indulgence as sorrow, and hoping viewers can't tell the difference. But the audience does see it. The way their expressions light up, the way their tone changes, it all gives them away. No fresh start speech can hide the truth. Kody and Robyn are grief grifting their way into another McMansion. This isn't healing, it's hustling. What do you think, Soul Sister Wives fam? Drop your thoughts down below. Are Kody and Robyn fooling anyone anymore? Make sure to like, subscribe, and join the Soul Sister Wives channel for more raw truth, deep dives, and unfiltered breakdowns every day.